Mr. Depp, is this the version of the op-ed that you recognize?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one.
I would move Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 into evidence and ask that it be published to the jury.
Any objection? No objection. All right, 1 in evidence and publish.
Mr. Depp, when did you see Ms. Heard's December 18th, 2018 op-ed for the first time?
It was presented to me by one of my team. I can't remember, but it was within a day or so of it. A couple of days of it having been written, I believe.
And what was your reaction when you saw it?
Shock.
Why were you shocked?
Because at that point, it had been a good solid two or so years of this, of the accusations, of the allegations, planted firmly on my back, so something that I had to carry with me. And I just couldn't believe that it was continuing. That it was continuing in such a way that it was clear that the more bad press, the more hit pieces that came out on me, the more of these stories of Ms. Heard and her righteous chase against me. It wasn't stopping, and it's difficult to once you've chewed on it for a couple of years, it becomes pretty difficult to swallow anymore. As it was completely untrue.
How did you feel when you saw the op-ed for the first time?
Objection asked and answered just now.
My prior question was about his reaction.
All right, I'll allow it.
Hurts. Yeah, a blinding hurt. It was like somebody had hit me in the back of the head with a 2x4. And as it said, I had no ability to speak prior to, because even if I had done an interview to try to explain myself, it turned into a hit piece. So my mouth was shut. And this was the opportunity where I thought, something's got to be done. It's just got to be done. I couldn't take it anymore.
When did you first learn that Disney was not going to recast you in the Pirates franchise?
It was probably 2 or 3 days after this op-ed appeared. One of my crew, again, I don't remember who had sent me, excuse me, had sent me a piece that was in some magazine, and Sean Bailey, who was the number 3.
Objection, hearsay.
I don't know yet. I'll overrule it at this point.
Thank you.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sean Bailey, who was the third in line, as I suppose, in the upper echelon of Disney, just basically said in the
Objection, hearsay.
Your
What
Honor,
Sean Bailey said.
this is about him
It's in
learning
an
about this.
article.
It's not for the truth.
It is the truth. She's
If
asking.
you want to approach, that's hard.
Mr. Depp, could you please explain to the jury who Sean Bailey is? I think you were starting to.
Yes, I'll try again. Sean Bailey is the number 3, or was at the time. I don't know what his status is anymore, but at the time he was the number 3 sort of upper echelon of Disney top dogs, and Sean Bailey was quoted as saying that...
Objection, hearsay.
Mr. Depp, where was Sean Bailey quoted, without getting into what he was quoted as saying?
He was quoted in whatever the article was that that was brought to my attention.
And can you please just clarify what article you're referring to?
I don't know what journal it came from. I don't know what magazine. I don't know any of that, so I don't know who did the interview with him.
Objection, lack of foundation.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Mr. Depp, how did you feel when you learned that you were being dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise?
Well, it was the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. It was a character that Captain Jack Sparrow was a character that I had built from the ground up, and was something that I of course put a lot of as you do with all characters, but you put a lot of yourself into the character. So, and also having worked on these films with these people and having added much of myself, much of my own rewriting of the dialogue and scenes and the jokes and whatever they are, I didn't quite understand how that, after that long relationship and quite a successful relationship, certainly for Disney, that they would, that suddenly I was guilty until proven innocent.
Up until the point that you learned that you were not going to be in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise any longer, what was your intention with respect to future Pirates movies?
The last thing that I knew from I say there's the producer team, there's the creative team, and there were many discussions. I, in fact, had been approached to take part in writing
Objection,
Pirates
hearsay.
6.
Mr. Depp, what was your intention with respect to future Pirates movies, aside from what you'd been asked to do?
My feeling was that these characters should be able to have their proper goodbye, as it were. A franchise can only last for so long. And there's a way to end a franchise like that, and I thought that the characters deserved to have their way out of to end the franchise on on a very good note. I planned on continuing until it was time to stop.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn asked you about a quote where you said you wouldn't come back to the Pirates franchise for $300 million and 1,000,000 alpacas. Do you remember that?
I do.
When relative to learning that you would no longer be a part of the Pirates franchise, did you make that statement?
I think long before I made the statement, there was a very deep and distinct sense of having been betrayed by the people that I had been working with, the people that I had worked hard for, the people that I had delivered a character to that they initially despised, but somehow, you know, even I stuck to my guns with the character and it seemed to work. So,
Do you recall when specifically you made that statement about the $300 million and the 100 alpacas?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
I believe I made that statement during a press conference in the San Sebastian at the San Sebastian Film Festival when I was asked about my situation.
And what year would that have been, if you can recall?
I believe it was last year or so.
Can we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 804? Mr. Depp, do you recognize this document?
As soon as my eyes go on, I hopefully will. Scaramanga Brothers, yes. Pirates of the Caribbean, 4 and 5, yes.
What is this document?
I don't quite know. I'd have to read it to get some
Could we
understanding of it.
Could we scroll through so Mr. Depp can look at the rest of this document?
Oops. Oh, there it goes. It looks, this appears to me to be some species of contract, no?
Is this a contract that you entered into?
With Disney.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Plaintiff's Exhibit 804 be moved into evidence and published.
Any objection?
I think it's outside the scope of direct or cross-examination.
I'll overrule on that objection.
Okay, and yeah, well, I'll reserve other objections to portions of the document, depending on what she's going to ask about. Could be hearsay.
But she's asking to put it all into evidence right now.
Well, then I would object to that at this point.
All right, you want to come forward? Let's see. If I could just get a redacted copy of that at some point. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Depp, if I could direct your attention to section 6 of the contract, which is on pages 8 through 10 of the document. Mr. Depp, what does this reflect?
Sorry. It appears to be the agreement of Pirates 4 and 5, compensation and merchandise.
Mr. Depp, at this time, how many other franchise films had you been a part of?
At that time, Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland. I'm so pathetic when it comes to knowing what movies I've done. I'm sorry. I just, I don't watch them. I feel better not watching them. What was the question again?
How many?
I have order in the
other
court, or I will have you removed. Understood? Thank you.
How many other franchise films had you been a part of at the time of this contract?
There was a third. There was Pirates. There was, with Warner Brothers, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then Crimes of Grindelwald.
And how does the compensation reflected in this contract compare to that, what you receive for the other franchises that you've been a part of?
Objection, foundation.
He just established that he was a member of other franchise films at this point.
And he hasn't established a foundation that he knows how he was compensated for this.
I'll overrule the objection if you can answer.
I believe the compensation, obviously, all the pay and back end and all those things are negotiated by agents, lawyers, and this was comparatively this is my salary on that film, and other salaries were of a similar status, I suppose.
If I could direct your attention to the 12th page of the document.
Yes. Oh.
Is this your signature, Mr. Depp?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You can take this down. Thank you. Mr. Depp, I recall that you testified that you don't know during a given period what movies you were working on. So my question is, who would know that?
Well, first and foremost, is my agent, or agents. I do recall a couple of the other films that I'd made after. One was initially called Richard Says Goodbye, and that was, they changed the name to The Professor, and during all of the nastiness over the past 6 years, that film went straight to pay-per-view. There was another film called Minimata that was produced. It was my company, Infinitum Nile. We had developed a film called Minimata about Eugene Smith, and the Minimata the mercury poisoning of a very small fishing village in southern Japan. There was that one, and then there was a film called Waiting for the Barbarians with Mark Rylance and Robert Pattinson. Those were 3 films that I'd done.
Mr. Depp, during your cross-examination, Mr. Rottenborn showed you a number of text messages between you and Paul Bettany. Do you remember that?
I do.
Could you please explain to the jury what your relationship with Mr. Bettany is?
Mr. Bettany and I had, we'd met while I was making a film called The Tourist in Venice.